This week's special guest on What's Brewing with Humble Joes is Kyle McIntosh. Kyle has been happily married to his wife Casey for 13 years with 4 wonderful children who he loves and cherishes very much. For the past 7 years, he has owned and operated Beauty from Ashes Tattoo Studio. Kyle loves doing anything art related and connecting with his community. We are super excited to sit down and talk with Kyle McIntosh. Hey, welcome back. We're here on another episode of What's Brewing with Humble Joes. We are here in Crothersville, Indiana at Beauty from Ashes Tattoo Studio with Kyle McIntosh. Kyle, thanks for coming.
Thank you. Appreciate you guys.
We really appreciate you having us down and checking out your studios. Thanks a lot.
Appreciate you guys coming down.
Yeah. Murph, how's it going? You had a good week so far?
Yeah, man, good week. I had to see you a little more than I usually do, so I'm overcoming that, but it's been all right.
Yeah, we had a special Veterans Day episode last night. It's going to air sometime later this week.
Nice.
So
Yeah.
got to sit down and chat with Murphy and another buddy about their experience in the armed forces. So that was pretty cool.
Oh, right. Nice.
That's cool.
So this is night 2 with Murphy and Steven, so hopefully we get through this.
All right.
So we'll go ahead and jump right in. I wanted to come down and talk to you about, projects you're working on. You've been doing some tattooing here for about 7 years. You're doing some art around town.
Yeah.
Just hear your story and kind of just tell us what you're passionate about, and we'll just chat it up.
Wow. Where would you like me to start? Some recent projects. We'll start with that.
Sounds good.
I just finished a project that I would love to tell you exactly where it's at, but I can't. The location is under wraps and the business is under wraps right now. They want to keep it under wraps until their grand opening.
Well, that's pretty cool.
But I'd say it's probably going to be in the next couple of weeks. We'll be able to reveal that. But if you saw my Facebook Lives in the last couple of days, those shows little hints of what it looked like.
Was it a Dollar General?
It wasn't, no, but that would be a really good
I don't
contract
know about
because
that,
they're
man.
everywhere.
Yeah, so you could be anywhere, yeah, if you get that, yeah.
So yeah, that was definitely,
Would you charge them $1?
yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Lots of them.
Lots of them. Yeah, exactly.
So the big one that really brought my attention and caught my eye was the one you did there in Seymour on Tipton.
Yeah.
How did that thing come to
Oh wow!
life?
So that has all been an idea that I had for probably 20 years. I think around 20 years. I worked at that Rally's that's across the street on Tipton, and I remember just thinking, I love that wall. I love the weird shape of it. I love it's just in the main spot where everybody would see it. So I always dreamed about doing graffiti on it, not in the most legal way, but I did think about it every day. And I always had plans. But so then I think about a couple years ago, Mayor Matt Nicholson, me and him, we were out and about somewhere, and we ran into each other, and he said, "Hey, I got an idea." And I said, "What's that?" He said, "You know that wall there on Burkhardt? It's kind of a retainer wall or whatever." And I said, "Yes. I know exactly what you're talking about. Do you want to paint it?" He's like, "Yes, that's what I'm about to say." I was like, "Yes, let's do it." So he's like, "Well, we're gonna have to we're gonna have to go through all the paperwork. We're gonna have to find the funding, blah blah. It's not just gonna happen overnight." I said, "Yeah, that's fine. All right, let's get started." So the idea kicked around for a while, but we didn't get started on it until about a year ago.
Okay.
So, and it just started with design something, let's come up with that, and we did. We had it sent as a proposal to the city. The city approved that proposal, and then they went on with the artwork. So it took a while to get the rest of the permits though. So
How many hours total from design to proof to editing back and forth with the committee would you say you have in this piece?
Well, to be honest with you, so I actually designed we'll say about 70% of a design, and I didn't like it, so I deleted it, and that was 32 hours that I just hit delete. And then
So now do you do all that digitally?
Yeah,
As
that
you
was
design?
all
Okay,
digital.
sorry.
So then I went and started this design that's on there now, and I probably spent about 30 plus hours designing that. And then far as painting, far as I designed it, I sent it to them. The city was super fast. They were super great. I think it took them a week or so to make a decision. We did some changes here and there that they had asked to do. Nothing major. And then I think it was the highway department we waited on for several months.
So what was the hang up there?
I think it was just a matter of getting permission. It's really because they really didn't have like a say in it. It was more just it's touching our property line, so you gotta you gotta have our permission. So
Now, is that a usual thing? You make something and then somebody comes in, messes with your Kool-Aid and says, "Hey, adjust this design," or
with city projects,
Okay.
it usually is.
But
But
is that like a big burr in your saddle, or are you just like, it's just what it is?
So that's really like I told Matt when we had this idea. I said, Matt, I'm all about doing this, but I know how city government works. I've worked with boards before, or tried to work with boards before. I don't work well with boards. I tend to voice what I have on my mind, and people don't like that, so whatever. But I said, I'm not going to go back and forth, because there's always going to be somebody on that board that doesn't like it, and that
Right.
vote just takes everything down. And I've been through it before. And he said, well, let's just give it a shot. And honestly, they were great. Seymour was great. They had me do a couple alterations, but it was more like change the color here to this.
Okay.
Which, it was fine. But I've had boards that was awful to deal with.
So you still had most of your creative control. It was just some preferences.
Yeah. I had pretty much all the creative control on it, other than just little things they wanted changed or moved around.
So do you do that same thing when you're tattooing? You start a little and say, "Hey, do you like it?" And they say no. You just hit erase. Is that how that works?
Yeah. So kinda, yeah, like designing wise. So I'm fortunate. I'm very blessed enough that in my career now that I usually can design what I have in mind, and then obviously I'm going to take the notes from the person. I'm going to see what they want and what they have in mind, what it means to them, why are they getting it, and get those clues basically, and make a list, and then I'll try to design something. Usually, I would say at least 80% of the time, if not more, they love it exactly how I designed it, which I'm very fortunate. But there is some cases where like, well, let's add a flower here, or maybe they just hate it completely. I've had that too.
Do you think you can get a flower added to your tat?
Yeah, I could.
It would look good.
Get a flower.
Let's take a time out.
Is that corpse flower? Get one of those.
I brought some Guatemalan coffee.
Oof,
I want to
yes.
put you right on the spot. We've
Yes.
not talked really much about it, but we should take a taste. Tell us what you think. Just
So-
expand.
I actually took a couple of tastes a little bit ago because I already cheated. I'm sorry, because it smelled so
Did you
good.
read the bag and see the
I
tasting
didn't.
notes?
Yeah, don't cheat. Don't read the tasting notes.
Okay, so the notes, honestly, I taste like a nut flavor, but that's the first thing I noticed about it. But it's so, like, the taste, it's just good by itself.
Yeah.
Like, that's when you know you're drinking good coffee, when you're like, you don't have to look for any creamer or
Yeah.
sugar. Like,
Yeah.
you're just like, oh, let's
Plain
just drink
black.
this.
Yeah.
I don't think I've had this blend or this specific lot since I got the bag in, because it's a fairly new bag. And I had it this morning. I'm like, man, that's really good. I mean,
Yeah.
it has a nice acidity, a little bit of sweetness, but it's not like overpowering. And there's like no bitterness.
Yeah, there's no bitter, but it still has a strong,
Yeah.
like, it still has that
Yeah.
strong, like,
And
almost.
that's what, like a medium to dark roast.
It's right around medium.
Yeah.
What do you
It's
think?
like-
I mean, that's kind of more.
I'm usually light roast,
Yeah.
right? And I'm liking it. Like, dude, that's, and I don't dislike medium roast,
Yeah.
but I'm usually light roast.
It's kind of cool how coffee connects people, because I would have never reached out to you. Nothing against anything, or nothing against you
So,
personally.
yeah.
At least I don't think I did.
Right.
Until I saw a social media post that
Yeah.
you had some of our coffee and you
Oh,
liked it.
yeah.
So, and I was just like, dude, this is great.
Yeah, so I actually had heard about you guys before I got that coffee, and I immediately attached to the name.
Yeah.
So I was like, Humble Joe's. Oh, that's an interesting name. I like it, And then I'd seen a couple of pictures, I think on Facebook, I'm pretty sure, and it was a packaging, and I think there was a stamp on it that it referred to maybe Jesus or something.
Jesus over everything.
Yeah, and I was like, oh, that's really cool, And I was meaning to try it. Like, I really wanted to try it. And for some reason, I thought that you guys were connected with the Humble Donuts. So I thought, well, I could go there and that's where I'd buy it.
You're
right?
probably not the first one. That's
Oh, really? Okay, yeah.
It's-
So that's what I was
asked,
going
like,
to do.
weekly.
Yeah. So then I was actually at a leadership class, and I won it the first day of leadership class during a contest. And they're like, do you want coffee or a gift card? I was like, coffee. They're like, well, it's whole bean. I'm like, that's even better.
Cool, I got a hammer.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm not going to joke. I got home, and I was so excited about it. I started brewing it right away.
Yeah.
And it was really good. And
pumpkin, wasn't it?
yeah, and I'll be honest with you, usually flavored coffees for me don't do a lot for me, but I was really impressed with it.
I really like our flavor company that we use. I've used a couple, and it's a pretty expensive because we add flavoring to it after we roast. But they have high quality stuff, and I feel like it's not overbearing. It's not like some sweet artificial
Right.
flavoring. It kind of blends in
Yeah.
well with the coffee. Never thought I would drink flavored coffee either. We weren't even going to do it, but there's a market for it, and people love it. And it's a great thing about coffee is I'm not going to judge anyone on how they drink coffee because that's what they like. And that's
Right.
their
Oh, I do.
preference. I know you do, but your judgment.
What's your judgment on coffee? Is it like if you use too much cream, you're not drinking coffee?
I don't know, man. If you use creamer and sugar, I just
Keep
Any
it
cream,
PG-13.
Really?
Okay.
yeah, I gotta keep it.
I mean, I'm basic white girl, so
Yeah,
I
that's
like my
fine.
pumpkin.
My daughter does. She puts milk or creamer in hers, and I'm like, that's fine. But, whatever.
It's all right. You'll be forgiven one day, hopefully, for your judgments. Kyle, I would like to learn a little bit about your story from high school until now and kind of the journey that's made you the person you are today.
Yeah.
If we have enough time.
Yeah.
Steven, we have enough time for that?
Yeah, so high school. So actually, around freshman year, I got arrested on several occasions at this point in Indianapolis for graffiti. I think every time I got arrested was graffiti. And the funny part of that is every time I got arrested for graffiti, they wasn't there for me. They were actually there for something completely different, not even relative to the crime I was doing. Sometimes me doing graffiti was the alibi. So, but anyways.
You should pick nicer areas.
Yeah, right. That's what I was thinking. Like, I should have thought this out a little better.
Yeah.
But I actually was facing about, 3 or 4 years in boys' school, and because they were over it.
Yeah.
And my mom had came in the picture, and she said, no, he'll come down to this area down by Houston area, way on the other side of the county.
Yeah, by me.
Now, I was growing up in the ghetto and got moved out to Maumee area in the woods. Like, it was nobody out there, you know. And I just hated it. I couldn't stand it. So it wasn't, I think it was a couple years, not even a year and a half. I think I was out there and I ran away. And I kind of just lived at house to house, couch surfing.
So how, 16?
Yeah, and like my mom, she knew that I was gone, and she eventually knew, you know, like the places I was staying. So like her big thing was like, as long as you stay in school, stay out of trouble. I don't really care what you do. You know, you're not going to stay home. I already know your attitude. You're not going to do it. So I'd rather just know you're safe somewhere. So I did, and I lived a really crazy lifestyle being 16, 17 years old and no real parents to tell me what to do. Obviously, I was just living wild, and I was already into the drug lifestyle. I was already living that as a kid, you know. So that just increased because I didn't have that supervision, and I had a car, and, you know, I had a job.
Freedom.
So, yeah, I had a little money, not a lot, but enough to party on. So 18, 19, I just, you know, started getting worse and worse, and because I had jobs that made a little bit more money, so then it was a little bit harder partying, and I really went out of control. And it was about 2007. I was probably 20s, early 20, I think. And my brother had committed suicide, and he was really bad off on drugs as well. And you'd think, as his younger brother, that would be that moment that I'd like, okay, I gotta wake up. I don't want to go down the same road, you know. And I didn't. I spiraled. I mean, I just went out of control. I went way worse, way harder into crack, way harder into coke, pills, all of it, and anything. And I was a hardcore alcoholic at the time, and just mixing all of it all the time. And depression. I mean, I'll be the first to admit to anybody I deal with depression. I still do. It doesn't matter how great, fantastic your life is. It's just part of it. Sometimes it happens. But at this point in my life, I was diagnosed manic depressive, so I was up and down all the time. So the drugs did not help that. And I would go into psychosis and do a lot of crazy things. And I'll be honest with you, I hurt a lot of people along the way, and affected a lot of people's lives along the way. And I knew what I was doing. There was no excuse to that. Yeah, I was on drugs, but I knew what I was doing. But I got really, really bad to the point that my depression spiraled out of control. I attempted suicide on several occasions, full-blown attempts, because I had got so bad that I thought that the only way I'd ever be happy is if I wasn't here. I know that doesn't even sound like that logical, because it's not, but that's what I thought. So I thought the only way I could make other people's lives better if I just wasn't here. So I tried and didn't succeed, obviously, which was good. But but anyways, I started getting worse and worse, and then my son was born, my oldest son, and I thought, man, I've got to get it together. Like, I was 22, I think, at this point in 2008 when he was born, and I was like, I got to get my life together. This has been a rough year. And that one year, I went to rehab 2 or 3 times. Went to mental institute 2 or 3 times. It was a rough year, you know. And I was like, well, I got a son now. I got to get this right. So he was born, and I was determined I was going to stay clean and take my meds and do my counseling, and I did for 8 months or so, and then I just, you know, started dabbling in little stuff here and there. And I would never do it with him, like me watching him. It was always like I'd wait till his mom got home, and then I would go off and sneak in a corner somewhere. But, you know, she had found out, kicked me out, which I don't blame her, you know. But I was just, I remember thinking I've lost everything to drugs, including the only thing that I've ever found happiness in, and that was my kid. And I was like, oh my God, I'm doing it. I'm giving my kid this horrible life, and I'm not, I got to figure this out, you know. And I was like, I got to move back to Indy. That's what I thought. I'll go back home, and I'll just get a really good job there, and I'll try to get a place, and I'll get my life together. If I move away from everybody I know, then maybe, you know. And so that was the plan, and I had to wait for a couple of paychecks to come in. And in between that time is when I met my wife, and it was just through mutual friends. They had said, hey, we really think you guys would really get along, and we met, and her family was really into faith. They really, and they were living it. It wasn't they were just talking about it, or like, oh, you should go to church for this, which they would, but they weren't like, oh, you have to go to church, you know. Now you gotta understand, I am 22, 23 years old at this time, and I pull up to their house to get their 18-year-old daughter, because she just turned 18 a month before I met her, and I pull up in a white hiring a kite, and she knew I was hiring a kite, and she didn't deal with that. She didn't have any tolerance for that at all. Like, she would walk someone right out of their house because of that, you know. But she didn't. She was super kind. She was not judgmental. And anyways, they were always talking about just their relationship with God.
Yeah.
And I thought, what? Like that? What is that? You know, because I had heard about God my whole life, but I'd never heard anyone say a relationship with God. That just blew me away. I always thought God's up here, I'm down here, and like he might get that voicemail one day, he might check it, maybe not, you know. But when they started talking about their relationship, I was like, man, that's incredible. So I wanted to find out more. So I started just asking more questions. I'd go to church with them, and I started seeing just the kindness that was poured out. And I was like, that's what I want. That relationship. And I remember I was in my room one night, and I was just thinking, my life's not horrible right now. I was still using. I was really bad on promethazine at this point, and I was drinking a lot of it. But I was still managing. I was still working. I was still, trying to live a regular life. And I was happier than I'd been. But I remember just thinking, like, I'm like a dog chasing his tail. Like, if I don't do something different, this is all gonna fall apart any second. And I remember I want to do something different, and I thought, what about this God thing? Everybody's talking about this God. That's what I call it, this God thing. What about this God thing? Because everybody's talking about this God thing. And I've tried everything to be happy. I've tried killing myself to be happy. I've tried every drug, every alcohol, every car. I've tried all of it, and I got nothing out of it. And here I am, and I've never tried this. And this, if it don't work, it's not going to kill me. If nothing changes, whatever. And so I remember I said my first earnest prayer, and I asked God to ask Jesus to be in my heart, and said my own, I guess, version of the sinner's prayer. Anyways, I remember thinking not much would change, but I remember praying that, Lord, if you can help me with addictions, because one way or the other, it's ruined my life, and these drugs have just ruined me. And I didn't think much about that. And the next morning I woke up and I was running really late, and I've never run late. And I was like, what? And it was something to do with my alarm clock, and I was like, oh my gosh. So I'm rushing, I fly out the door first thing, and the whole day I'm busy all the way till that late that night, which at that time in my life, that was not the case. I had way too much time. Anyways, so the next morning it happens again. I'm 30 minutes late this time. Don't know why, right? And I'm thinking, this whole God thing is a bunch of crap. You know what I mean? Like, I don't
God's
know.
ruining my life.
I don't know if this was a good idea. Like, maybe drugs was a better option. No, I'm not saying that. But so anyways, the whole day I was busy again, all the way till late that night. And I was like, oh my gosh. So that night I was like, I'm setting an alarm on this. I'm setting an alarm on this. I'm not being late. So I woke up really early the next morning. And I remember thinking, all right, I'm going to take a shower, go downstairs. And my routine was I'd grab a 40-ounce beer, and I would drink that first thing in the morning, take some promethazine, put it in my Sprite, go on my day. And I would just stay messed up all day. So anyways, what I did is I grabbed that 40-ounce out of the refrigerator. I walked over at a metal trash can that was empty, and I just dropped it. It was a full 40-ounce, pretty good size, probably tall as that bag. It was full, and it hit boom. And when I heard that sound, it was like this light bulb went off. It was like, oh my God. The last 2 days I haven't done anything because I was too busy. I had too much going on. I didn't even have time. I was running behind, and I remember just thinking, what? There's no way. And I remember this is where, what they say, like in the Word, it says, do not test the Lord. And I did. But
Because
why not, right? Yeah. So I looked up, and there's no one else in the house. And I looked up, and I said, Lord, if you can do that, what else can you do with my life? Because I'm ready to do whatever you want, which I don't recommend anybody saying that. But anyways, so I would love to say this is the point of the story where it's like this beautiful field of flowers, and everything just goes so great, and life was just so fun after that. But that was not the case. Life got super hard. That was our first year of marriage, me and my wife. She'd never lived on her own. I had a kid from a previous relationship, which is my son, and then we had our daughter. So we had a newborn at home. This is also during the recession. So there's no jobs anywhere. Went through 5 jobs in 2 months. All of them closed their doors for good. Wow. And she was a stay-at-home mom because it was cheaper for her to stay at home.
Daycare.
So yeah, and it was hard. We was at the food bank. We had family that helped us. We had a lot of friends that helped us. And really, to be 100% honest with you, even though it was a struggling year, God provided every single time. There was always, if we were behind our electric bill, there was a check on several occasions, and I have several people that witnessed it. That was for the amount that we needed. So God provided every time, but it was hard. And I was clean. It was the first time I'd been clean since I was a kid. You know what I mean? I didn't know how to handle life. I didn't know how to handle all the emotions and trauma from my childhood, and then having my own kids, and then going through all that. But I was dealing with it, and it was hard. But the whole time, it was just depending on God the whole time. And like, I wasn't doing anything at all. I wasn't drinking. I wouldn't have a beer, nothing. I wanted for one time in my life to have a whole year where it was just me and my own thoughts, whether that was good or bad.
Yeah.
And, you know, we did. So anyways, about a year after that, I got an opportunity to travel with the Christian music circuit, give my testimony to people, and I thought it was going to be like 20 or 30 people in an old church somewhere. Ended up being like 10, 15, 20,000 people in the audience in these music festivals. It was crazy because I'm not a social person. I still am not today. A lot of people are really surprised by
the
that.
calendar.
Yeah, I hate it. But you know, I remember the first night we had meet and greet, and it was a table like this, and you have the bands that are all doing the meet and greet together. And whatever your band you're opening for, they would have their meet and greet. And I remember that first night, I was like, I'm not doing it. No way. I don't have to. And they're like, oh yeah, you got to. If you're on that stage, you got to. Oh, all right, so we go, and I'm dreading it. All I'm thinking about the whole day is how I have to do this meet and greet. And I finally get to the table, and I remember out of all the stuff that happened at all those events, all the great memories, that was the most impactful. Because those meet and greets, these people were telling me their testimony. They were telling me what they were struggling with, and they were talking about how I inspired them. And I'm like, you're battling stage 4 cancer right now, and you have a smile on your face. I was complaining about not having a hot shower in a hotel.
Right.
You know what I mean? Yeah. Like, don't look at me like I'm somebody. You should be up there. You know, and there was a lot of those moments that I walked away like, wow. You don't realize like how good you have it and how good you've had it your whole life, and you just threw it away. And these people, they don't have that opportunity, you know. So yeah, that was definitely interesting. But yeah, we kept going with that. And then in 2016, we opened up Beauty from Ashes Tattoo, and that was a really wild God thing too. How that even came about. And I'll go if
yeah,
right,
sure.
Go, sorry.
So you've been here in this location since.
So
2016.
not this location.
Okay.
Actually, you can't see now, but outside that window, if you in the daytime, you went through those two houses. There's an old green. They call it the crack shack.
Oh, great.
It's like an old crack shack back there. It was an old building, and I rented that for a little over a year. That was the first shop, and it was just really small. I renovated the whole thing. It was all turned into a legal tattoo shop, but. Okay. It was it wasn't that great. It was kind of falling apart. So then we moved to by the dollar store, and we was there for a few years. And then I bought this in 2020, July 2020, and we've been here since. Nice. But how that all came about was I was tattooing here and there, in and out of the house, just kind of here and there. And I wanted to get back into tattooing professionally, but I was like, man, I don't like how shops are ran. I don't like how they treat people. A lot of shops when you walk in, they want to hustle you. They want to, get them in, get them out. Let's get this done. And they don't, not everywhere, but there's a lot of them are like that, and they don't even care about the tattoo or the art. They just want to get the money. And I didn't like how they treated their customers, and I was like, nah, it's not cool. So I knew I wouldn't be happy. So I was like, well, what's the only way I'm going to be happy tattooing if I do it myself? And I thought, man, that would be crazy, So anyways, I remember I was working at Walmart DC at the time, and I just kept like having this idea of this tattoo shop. Like, what would it be like, And if you could do a tattoo shop any way you wanted to do it, how would you do it? And I thought to myself, I want to create a shop that gives back to the community. I want to create a shop that's not only a business, but something that is a foundation in that community that'll help build anything up in that community, whether it's the youth, whether it's the parks, whatever it is. Let's be something that people can come to as a hub, an art hub. And I want to use that also as a place of ministry. I want to be able to talk to people and tell people about not even just about God, but just about getting through life, And sometimes they talk to you, they give you lessons.
Yeah, we were talking about that.
Yeah. But anyways, so I had this crazy idea to do this, and I was telling my wife, I mean, it was really heavy on my mind for about 3 days. And my wife, we're sitting on the front porch, and she says, what is on your mind? why are you, like, you're in your own world the last couple of days. I was like, man, I got this crazy idea. And she said, what? And I said, and I explained to her this tattoo shop idea. It gives back to the community and blah, blah, family friendly, blah, blah. And she goes, without even skipping a beat, she goes, well, then you should do it. And I was like, why? That's not what you're supposed to say. You know, like, you're supposed to say, we're broke. We don't have that kind of money. So. We can barely survive right now. Yeah. You're crazy. We're never going to have that kind of money. And realistically, we didn't have that money. We didn't have any money to start up a business at all. We had no credit. We was renting a house. We didn't even have our own house. You know what I mean? So I was like, well, that's just a dream. You know, it's never going to happen. And she's like, well, it won't happen if you have that attitude, you know. And so it was crazy. So I think about a week or so goes by, and a lady gets a hold of me that we used to go to church with, and she goes, hey, I found your guys' number at a church directory. She worked for Sam's Club at the time. She said, I need one more person to sign up for my monthly quota. You sign this up, you guys get a free $50 gift card. I'll come to you, and you can cancel it tomorrow. I just need this one person. Okay, you know? So she comes down, and she's telling us all the benefits, and we're like, that's cool, but we don't have that kind of money. Like, we don't have money for Sam's Club. We're barely getting groceries, you know? And she's telling us, well, if you sign up for the business account, they'll give you this much, blah, 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 and you'll get this big of a gift card. And my wife goes, well, tell her your business idea. I was like, that's just an idea. It's a dream. I don't have an actual business, you know? And she goes, well, tell her. So I tell her, and she goes, that's incredible. She's like, you should really do that. And I was like, well, yeah, I'd love to. That's never going to happen. I don't have that kind of money. So anyways, so she signs me up for her business account. Isn't that crazy? Didn't even know it till afterwards. But
you didn't know you had a business.
Right, I didn't even know I had a business. We didn't have a name or nothing.
You got the bigger gift card?
Yeah, for real, yeah. And I got the good gift card. And we canceled it the next day. I'm sorry, Sam's Club. But,
I think they're doing fine with it.
Yeah, so, yeah, for real. So anyways, we just, you know, she leaves that day, and I'm not even joking. About a week later, I get a call from her sister. This is the crazy part. She had talked to her sister, but she didn't say what I had said. She didn't say exactly what it was. She just said, you know, like, Kyle's like was talking about like starting his own business, blah blah, and it's something to do with art. And she's like, oh, that's cool, you know. And so, anyways, a couple of days goes by, and she said that she had basically woke up in the middle of the night, and she said, I felt the Lord tell me, as strong as can be, you need to get a hold of Kyle, and you need to support him on this artistic journey, something to do with art, and it's going to help people at the same time. And whatever he needs, you're going to support that. And she said it was so strong that I couldn't stop thinking about it. I went through the whole day kind of trying to ignore it because I hadn't. She's like, we only talked a handful of times before, and that'd been years since we spoke last or even seen each other. And she goes, well, I'm going to have to do it. So she calls me, and she says, hear me out. This is going to sound crazy. And she tells me all that. And she goes, so how much, or she says, so what are you wanting to do? What do you have in your heart? And I said, I don't know. I don't know what that could, I really didn't. I was like, I don't know what that could be, you know? And I didn't think about this. I didn't think about this at all. And then she said, okay, well, I'm going to call you back tomorrow and you think on it. So she calls me back, and she said, you think? I said, the only thing I could think would be a tattoo shop, but that takes a lot of money. You know, that's thousands and thousands of dollars at minimum, And she said, well, you just tell me what you need. Give me a number. So I told her what I needed, and I was like, no one has that kind of money sitting around. And she said, I think we can make something work. So at the same time, I'm telling this to my wife, and my wife's telling her dad. Now, this is the same guy that said, you sure you want to go with him, honey, right? No, he's a good guy. But he looks at her and says, well, I want to match it. Whatever she's investing, I want to match that, and I want to invest too. And he only has to pay me back what he owes. Yeah. And that was her stipulation. I only want exactly what I gave you. That's all I want. So anyways, I meet her, I think it was a week later, at this Chinese restaurant. And she has envelopes full of cash. And she prays with me, and we talk for a minute, we pray again. And she prays over this money, and she slides me these envelopes across the table. And I said, well, I didn't talk to an attorney. I don't, where's the paperwork? Like, do I have to sign like a contract? Like, just let me know, you know? And she said, no, I don't need any contract. She said, because I know what you're about to do with that money is about to change people's lives. And God put that on my heart. And what God put on my heart is I can't disobey. I have to do this. And there's no worldly stipulations that are going to be attached to this. She said, and guess what? You're going to pay me back when it is time for you to pay me back, when it is right for you to pay me back. I don't want monthly installments. I don't want none of that. You're going to know when you have enough money to keep the business going and have enough money to pay me back. And when that's due, you'll pay me back, and I don't want a dime more. And I think it was about a year and a half later, we was able to pay her and her dad off. A year and a half later, we was able to pay it off. And we was able to keep afloat. Now, I ain't gonna lie to you, the day that we opened up our tattoo shop, October 6th, 2016, it was, our bank account was like $68 negative that day. It was scary, very scary. So, yeah.
It's a
Jeez.
long story.
It's
I was on a journey, man.
I'm right there with you. I mean,
But we was able to hold Bible studies. That was our main thing, which we haven't done that in a long time. And I miss actually having on that board to try to do it again. Bible studies was one thing that I loved doing. Another thing is we was family-friendly tattoo shop. That was kind of unheard of at the time, so that was kind of new. And then getting involved with the community, we was really blessed to have such a great community that we're in that are so giving that it was easy to say, hey, I have this idea, and they was like, yeah, let's do it.
Now, are you seeing, other communities like people from, North Vernon, Scottsburg, Seymour, Brownstown? Are they coming?
Oh yeah, for sure.
Being
Yeah,
a part of what you're doing here?
We've had all kinds of. We've had people from other states. When we done food drives. So we did canned food. It was called Food for Tattoos. We did it twice, and each time was able to raise over 25,000 food items in one day. But we had people from Tennessee and Ohio drive up here just to drop off food and drive back because they heard about it on the news. And they didn't want a tattoo. They just wanted to be a part of it because it was something different, And that's when we knew. I think that our first food for tattoos events. That's when I was like, this is what we were supposed to do. This is what we were supposed to be doing this whole time. This is why we're here. And so I knew that we had to keep that momentum with our community going and starting to get change in our community. And, we was really blessed. We had Celebrate Recovery hit us up one year and said, hey, we're looking to put a Celebrate Recovery in Crothersville. You guys have a lot of people that need that there. Would you have a space you could rent to us? And I said, you can use my space. I don't need to rent it. I think it's a great idea. Let's get it in here. So they did, and it started out with 5 or 6 people, I think. And I think the last meeting was over 100 people. Okay, it was over fire code for sure.
It does say in this building. I walked all the way
yeah,
through,
so
but
it was actually in the old building, which was a little bit more square footage, but it was. They had the side door and front door completely open. There was people standing outside. And so what it was is they had a couple of pastors from the local church that was at this meeting. And they came to us afterwards and they said, hey, we want to start off by apologizing. And I was like, what? What happened, And they said, because we as the church, we should have been doing this. Mm-hmm. This was our job. And you guys are doing great at it. But this was our responsibility, and we dropped the ball.
But, in that, you also have to think that it's your experience and the path that you traveled that brought those people in.
Definitely. And, we had a lot of people that said, even the people in Celebrate Recovery would say, in our Bible studies as well, they said, I will never, ever step foot in a church ever again. But I want to hear more about God. And I will sit in a tattoo shop for 8 hours and talk about God all day. But I will never step foot in the church again. That's sad. I hate that. But
a lot of people say
I've heard something similar from people, not exactly tattoo shops, but I've heard from other people. I won't go to the church, but I'm all about hearing more about God.
Yeah, for sure. And I think it's different. When you're tattooing somebody, they're divulging a lot of their personal life to you.
It's pretty intimate, right? I mean,
yeah.
It's more than going to a hairdresser or a barber. I mean, it's you're spending some time with somebody.
Yeah, and you're talking about within 5 minutes of meeting you, they're telling you some of the deepest trauma of their life.
What did my wife tell you?
Oh man, you don't. We'll have to get
tell
all
me
different kind.
She said, I'm married to Justin.
Dig deep. It's painful.
Yes. No, actually, I think we talked more about just the church and what we view it as today in our modern society, and what in my opinion, what I think the church was supposed to be. I think the church was supposed to be what Jesus describes, and that's just loving each other for who you are and how you are. And I know Christianity doesn't get the best image sometimes anymore, and I honestly, I don't disagree with people. There is a lot of crap in it, and I love God and I love my brothers and sisters in Christ, but there's a lot of really bad crap in it, and I think it just needs all to be cleaned up and start over again.
Oh, yeah, I think you're right on some of that there. Is there anything else you want to share? Or, I don't have a lot to say. You spilled.
Sorry.
That's the cool thing,
everything.
right? Is we can sit here
Yeah.
and talk
Yeah.
all night, but eventually, this thing's got to end, and that's
Right.
unfortunate because I think you
There's
got a
a
lot
lot
to
there.
say, and there's
Yeah.
a lot of cool stuff that I think people are going to be interested in.
One thing that I've realized, I think that, this is our brand, and it's not just for branding, it's real to us too. But I think that Jesus over everything, you live it every day. That's a goal for all of us, that we want to do better and want to be the hands and feet of the church.
Yeah.
And I think you're living that here in your spot, in your space.
And I like doing it. There's I will say there was a word that was spoken over me, I think 3 times. It might be only twice, so hopefully I'm not misquoting that, but I know for sure twice. There was a word spoken over me, and it said that I would be used to reach people in an unconventional way. And this was before I even knew God, and I thought they were crazy. But I've found that I am unconventional, and a lot of people, when they hear the word unconventional, or they're titled unconventional, they think of it as a bad thing. They think, oh, I'm the oddball. I don't think that's the way it should be. I think if you're the oddball, you're the odd kid, you're the one that sits over in the corner and draws, that's fine. Be the kid that sits over in the corner and draws, because you're the one that's going to stand out from all the other kids that are doing the same thing. I had this teacher in elementary school on career day. She asked us, she said, everybody write a 4-sentence paragraph of what you want to be when you grow up and draw a picture. So I did that, and I'm sure the spelling was wrong and punctuation probably still is. But anyways, I drew a tattoo artist, or a guy getting drawn on in a chair. And then I wrote tattoo, T-A-T-U, I think, artist. Yeah, it was rough. But anyways, I take it up to her desk, and she says, looks at it, and she goes, I'm going to give you one more opportunity to redo this assignment. And I was like, well, dang, I know I probably spelled it wrong, but I have to do the whole thing, just not one thing?
Right.
And she said, well, yeah, because you have to pick a real career. And I was like, oh, okay. So I went back and I sat down at my desk, and I was like, I'm just going to add more color to this tattoo. So I added more designs, more details. And I walked back to the desk, and I hand it to her, and she takes a big red Mark-A-Lot marker, and she writes F as big as the page.
No way.
As big as the page. And she hands it back to me, and I was like, okay. So I walked back to my desk, yeah, and this is 3 rows back from the teacher, right? So I'm a little bit ways, and I'm giving her this death stare, like she would have died, And I remember and this is, I was probably I think I was in 3rd grade, yeah, so I was a little kid. But I had this really profound thought, and I remember thinking to myself, that is the last time someone's going to tell me that I can't do art.
Yeah.
I will be a tattoo artist. Even if it's only to prove this woman wrong, I will be a tattoo artist. And there's nothing they can do about that. And I was determined that day, that's what I was going to do. So the next day, everybody presented their things. All these other kids wanted to be astronauts, NFL players.
Oh, real
NBA
careers that
players.
everybody does, yeah.
Yeah, and I'm not hating on sports or being astronauts, but what I'm saying is mine wasn't realistic. So I got an F.
Yeah,
You know
that's
what I
what you
mean?
should have told her. I may have misspelled tattoo, but you misspelled A.
Right,
Like, you
exactly.
gave me an F, lady.
Yes.
Yeah.
But I tell people that, and people always, when they hear that story, people usually ask, what would you say to that teacher today? If you ran into her at the grocery store, you knew that was that teacher, what would you say? And the only response I would say is I would tell her thank you.
Yeah.
That's the
motivation.
Give you that
That's the
motivation,
most-
that
that was
drive.
the biggest
Well,
motivation.
you already
of
had
my
the drive.
life.
You just
Yeah.
needed that catalyst.
I just needed that motivation. You know?
Yeah.
So, I tell any kids, any adult, anybody out there, if you got a dream, if you got a passion, if you guys know Chad Malone,
Yeah.
I love Chad Malone. So Chad Malone, I quote this from him, and I use this every day. He says, "Passion creates results," and that is 100% true. Like if you're not passionate about something, you're not going to see results from it. If you are, it's going to take work. It's going to take determination. But if you're passionate, it will work out eventually. Like with coffee, did you always think you were going to do coffee?
No.
No?
It
Okay.
just hit me
Now,
one day.
when you hit it, though, when it hit your mind, did you say, I'm just going to do a little bit of coffee, that's okay, or I'm going to do coffee that's really good?
No, like we plan on taking over the coffee.
Right, and that's why we have
That's why
these
Humble Joe's
awesome
Cup.
cups, right? Yeah. Awesome packaging.
Yeah, and it,
Yeah.
it's something new. It's something we learn, and I'm getting old. 41. It's just you always want to keep learning, and that's kind of where I'm at with coffee. Is it's new, so
Right.
it's exciting. We learn something every
And
day.
it's funny you say that too, because I have people that ask me a lot about with the murals, because I've done murals my whole life, but I've been doing a lot more of them in the last couple of years. So I've had people say, "Are you still going to tattoo?" Well, yeah, I'm still going to tattoo, but I love doing other art. I love doing murals. I love doing prints. I love doing designs. I've done beer labels. I've done all kinds of stuff because I like doing different things, because I like to have different avenues. I heard this quote, and I don't remember exactly how they said it, but they said, it was in 2020, so the economy was crashing and everything. And it said, as an artist, you have no excuse not to be busy because there's always work available. And I thought, at first I was like, no, there's not. But then I thought, no, there's right, because we have art all around us. Design is all around us.
Yeah.
It's what you're going to apply yourself to is what changes that. So did I think I would design a beer label? No, but I did it. Did I think I would design concert prints? No, I didn't. But I did it because it's using the same concept, just putting it towards something different. So, yeah.
Cool. Well, when I told Lauren we were heading and I'd be back by like 8 o'clock, she's like, "Have you met him?" And I'm like, what does that mean? She said, well, he likes to talk. I said, "Well, Murphy likes to talk." I try to talk. Sometimes I mess up. But,
yeah.
dude, I love your story and sharing, and
Yeah, and honestly, that's a very
it's
condensed
just been-
version of
yeah,
it, too.
I can tell there's more there. And we would be here all night.
I know.
Right,
I just
no,
keep
yeah.
going.
We do have a
Hold
bag
on,
of-
man. You got more questions?
We have a
Sure.
bag of coffee. We'll be
But
out.
yeah. We got all night. My kid ain't got to be to school till 7.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm super glad that we were able to hang out
Yes.
and hear your story. And Murphy, anything you want to add?
No, man. Anything I add is just going to add time to it. I don't want to do that to us,
right,
but I like listening to everything. Yeah. It's
So
great.
we appreciate you. One more thing on the spot. If you said you had a mantra, you're saying, what would that be?
I guess like a quote.
Yeah, like your go-to. Like,
So I actually have it tattooed on me.
I knew you'd have it.
Yeah. So it's art should comfort the disturbed and disturb the comfortable.
Oh, it's nice.
I've seen that about memes recently. Somebody
Yeah.
changed that to say memes
Right.
instead. Yeah. Okay.
But I feel like art should, when you're doing art, not everybody's going to love it. No matter how good and how talented you are, it's not going to happen. But that doesn't mean that that's a bad thing. It's the same way with your opinions. If you have an opinion about something, say you want to see something changed in your community, there's going to be people that are going to say, no, that's a stupid idea. We need to spend money on this instead. But that doesn't mean that it is a stupid idea. It just means that person doesn't like it. And if they don't like it, that's fine, because that's actually going to create more conversation to maybe have other ideas. Maybe their idea isn't bad either. Maybe they do need a dog park on that side of town.
Yeah.
We didn't think of that until you opposed my idea.
Yeah.
So art is always going to provoke conversation. So I love when it does disturb people a little bit.
Yeah.
I love it. I think that's great.
Yeah.
Cool. Well,
Sure.
thanks a lot, and we
Thank you.
appreciate the time. Cheers.
Sir.
Appreciate you.
Thanks.
Yep.